Alright, welcome back to part 4 of building a WRX wagon. Already got all the heads all loaded up, they're all ready to go. They are clean and assembled. If you haven't seen how I've gotten up to this portion, by all means definitely go back to the last uploads and check them out. We're on part 4 now, so you've got 3 other parts that you've missed out on. So now, today, we are going to do some head installation. We're going to put these cylinder heads onto the short block that is back from the shop, from the engine builder. So they took it apart, they did a helical hone on the inside, spec'd everything, cleaned all the inside of the block out. It had a few discrepancies and whatnot. Some things were backwards, and there was, obviously metal inside and whatnot. But other than that, everything else has been assembled correctly now. Everything is to spec, it is correct, and it is clean. So, with that said, stay tuned. Alright, for now you're going to need really just probably only 2 tools in order to do this, and these are the tools that you're going to need. I'm going to need a razor blade for one. I don't consider that a tool, but I'm going to need that to cut all this out rather than unwinding it and unwrapping it and whatnot. And I really don't like to tear it because I don't want to have any kind of particles of plastic falling in. So it's a lot easier for me to take a nice razor edge, come across, and I can peel this off. Nice and easy. So the reason why I wrapped these the way I did, these ARP studs, is because they have the ARP oil already on them, and I wanted to utilize that and keep that on there so that I could reapply that back into the threads and put it back in where it was. So with that said, same thing on the passenger side. That's why I did it. I'm able to peel this out and then I can take them out, and it's pretty relatively easy. So right now I'm going ahead and cut these heads out, and then I'm going to cut the plastic off of this short block and expose everything. Okay, so let's get a nice shot of what we got. Alright, so you guys saw from part 1, there was no helical honing, and now there is. Everything's in the right direction. Everything looks really nice. I got a little bit of plastic in there. There we go. Pretty sweet. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to installing some ARPs. Alright, so all I've done is just sat it in here. We're going to go ahead and just thread all of these down until I feel tension, until basically I can't turn it by hand anymore. And normally doesn't take too long. Obviously there's a faster way of doing this. I can come over here, grab this ratchet, which I probably should teach, is how to do it quick and whatnot. Long threads, and you want them all in there, trust me. So we'll get this all the way down to where it butts down in. And as you can see also as well, notice that I'm using a 1/4 inch ratchet, a tiny little baby ratchet. It's for the sheer fact that you just put it in nice and tight, and that's the end right there. I can't go any more. You don't torque these. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut out the next one, start threading all these in, and then I'll do the same thing. Alright, so because I can't find my little level right now, I think it's at my house. We're going to have to use this large one. What you're going to want to do is just take this nice straight edge here, run it across your ARPs, make sure that they're all decked. This is usually the best bet to do it with. You can do it with this. Also, what I like using for straight edges, as long as you keep them brand new, see I've got them labeled here. These are really good for checking gaps and whatnot, for like exhaust flanges and whatnot. That's how I I do a lot of the exhaust portions here. I can use that to deck that, and even use a feeler gauge on the inside to do it correct. But these are actually these are for mudding for like sheetrock and whatnot, for doing that for large scale, you know, production scale. But you can see they are stupid straight, so that's why I like using them. You know, you keep them in good shape, and then you're able to check all this. Everything meets up really good, which is nice. You know, I mean, I like these straight edges. It's just basically a sheetrock trowel. I've got them all in different sizes. I like using them for checking the heads also as well, with a feeler gauge underneath, you know, and make sure they are straight, especially after spending the kind of money that you do to get them decked and whatnot, to actually get them flat. I like to check them, make sure that they are flat, put that straight edge right on there, run a feeler gauge, you know, cross it, exit, you know, do it in just about any kind of fashion I can to find out if they did their job correctly, because you really do not want to bolt that head onto a warped block or vice versa, you know. So I mean, why have a straight short block when you're going to have a warped head? Doesn't make much sense. Okay, so now that everything is all decked and we know that these are installed the correct way, they are not torqued in. You know, they're just basically bottomed out into the block, not with torque. Now, I can come over here, I can grab this head, and then I can start moving it over to here, but know that I've been moving this thing around, and you know, I kind of set it to the side and I move it up and whatnot, just to be able to wrap it with this cellophane. I always call it cellophane. That's not what I mean. I don't know why I call it that. I mean saran wrap or plastic wrap or whatever you want to call it. For some reason, odd reason, I always call it cellophane. It's weird. But anyways, long story short, that plastic and a lot of the assembly oil will transfer through, and it'll get underneath the plastic here. So you want to make sure that you clean that gasket, and you can see it right here transferring through. You always want to make sure that that gasket mating section and surface here and on the bottom of the head itself is clean, and most important, dry. So I've got the gaskets all wrapped up from last time. We're just going to have to go through them, clean them up. We're going to spray them down with some parts cleaner and spray cleaner, whatnot. Same thing with all the camshafts. But before you can even place the camshafts in, we're going to have to put the heads to torque, because the camshafts actually sit over the head studs, you know, here. So we're going to go ahead and slide the head on, but in order to do that, we're going to have to clean the bottom portion of that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. We're going to clean that, get that dry so that I can grab this gasket, unwrap that, clean that, get that dry, place it on here, grab that head, slide it on here, which is really easy to do, you know, and then we're going to start grabbing D hardware. You know, I label everything. There's your driver's side ARP hardware. It goes with those studs. You know, grab the washers and whatnot. And then we're going to go ahead and start threading them on. Once the head is on there, we'll do washer, washer, washer. You know, nut, 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 all the way around. And then I like to go around hand tight everything, and then use the a hand ratchet. Don't go straight to the torque wrench. You're going to want to take a hand ratchet and then go around all by hand and then snug. That's all you're doing, is just snugging them all so that they're all the same torque. Now don't just cross it, go in the sequence that you're supposed to go, you know, right in the middle, and then cross over, and then, you know what I'm saying? I'll get the sequence for you, and it's really easy. So I'll go ahead and I'll put that up so that you guys know the proper ARP torque sequence and which direction you're supposed to go and what order you're supposed to go. Okay, so that was the ARP torque sequence. We're going to go ahead and we're going to grab some brake cleaner. Easy peasy. And then now we're going to go ahead and clean the bottom of this head. I'm just going to lift it up, spray it, wipe it down as best as I can so it's nice and dry. And then I'm going to grab my air compressor, which is yonder. Grab the air chuck, and then I'm going to blow off the bottom surface here, make sure there's no debris. And then I get to repeat on the gasket. I get to clean that off. I get to wipe it all down. Hit it with the 120 psi, which normally blows any kind of particles off. Even if it wants to stay there, it's going to go bye-bye. And then same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and I'll blow all this out. 120 psi, guarantee. There's no dust, no dirt, no grime. You know, it comes out of there. I could place a gasket on there, and then we can slide the head on and start putting everything all to finger tight, and then we can start torquing. Okay, so everything's all clean. I've already blown everything off. Now we're just going to go ahead and slide a gasket on here. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean the bottom of that cylinder head. Okay, so the left hand head, driver's head, has been slid on. All I did was slide it right on. Nice and easy. Sitting right on the new gasket there. That was already provided. So all we're doing is basically just putting this thing back together. It has been sitting for quite a while, making sure that the first startup on this is going to be nice and ideal, and we don't have any discrepancies, any problems with it. We don't want to run any nasty fluid through it, and it would have definitely blown up if we basically ran it in the current state that it was in when I got it. So again, we're really glad and grateful that we've been able to go through this and do it right, so that we have less risk of actually having failure and whatnot. So for now, the next step is to move on to the actual hardware here. So we're going to go ahead and start taking it out of this bag. We'll start placing all of the washers and nuts on and start going ahead to put them all to finger tight. Alright, so very important part here is we're going to have to make sure all these are clean. I've already gone through and wiped them all out, and as you can see, they were really dirty. Yeah, so this is all from the hardware, from cleaning the bottom of the head and cleaning off the actual gasket itself. This was a brand new towel. I just grabbed it right out of the package, so you can get a general idea of how nasty it was and what would have been running through the brand new oil, because this engine does have 0 miles on it. It's just been sitting for about 5 years and it's never been broken in. So I mean, this is just that little bit of parts, so you get a general idea of the reason why I'm going through this and trying to make it right. So I got a little bit of conventional oil here and just poured it right into the cap. You're going to basically want to take your washer here. You'll dip it into here, just like some potato chips and some dip. Boom. Bring it right over. And then we're going to transfer it right over to the actual stud here so that it's not dry. It's not metal on metal. Do not use assembly oil, because assembly oil will not allow you to put this to proper torque spec. I promise you, you're going to have issues. It's not recommended, especially by ARP. They want you to use the motor oil to lubricate this so that you don't have binding. Now, I found that I've had to learn the hard way that I've used assembly oil. Not supposed to do that. And I'll tell you the reason why. It basically greatens your risk of over torquing the stud, because it is so slimy and loose that it actually will pull that stud right out of that block. I'm talking pull the threads right out of this case half. It's happened, and it's happened a lot to me until I figured it out, and I mean, we're talking years ago, so now I try to teach others as much as possible. Stick with the oil. That's all you need. That's what they recommend you use. You just dip it in there, get it nice and lubricated, nice and wet. Throw it right on the stud. This way you don't have any problems. You don't want to have those issues. Nobody wants those issues. You go through all this work and then pull a stud out of the case half. It is the worst feeling in the world. I'm telling you what. So I mean, nobody's perfect. Don't think that I've never had failures before. That's how I got to be as good as I am at assembling these things, because I've had so many failures. That's how you learn. So I mean, there was a point in time where I didn't know anything about these cars. I taught myself everything that I know. I didn't have some Grandmaster Subaru guy, you know, going through everything with me, trying to teach me everything to spec. That's not how it was. You know, my dad, he's not even a mechanic. He's actually not even mechanically inclined. You know, he does wood, you know, and I do metal. So we're exact opposites. So it's not like that. It's something that you can do yourself, and you want to make sure that you can do this yourself. You know, don't be scared. Never be scared to do this. You know, you got to be able to take care of yourself. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to finish these other 3 and stop talking your head off and giving stupid life lessons. Alright, so now everything has been installed, and I basically went around, I finger tight everything, and then I grabbed my hand ratchet and I went in sequence and bumped them all into place. I like holding the ratchet palm just like this so I can get the same amount of torque and I'm not over torquing with the handle, so it tends to help, and I just bump it into place, you know, and by bumping it, you know, I'm able to reach. I didn't go in sequence there, but you get the idea, you know, how all the threads are all equal, and that's really what you want, is everything looks the same, so that when we can go through and we do the sequence now, everything will line up and we're not over torquing one area of the head more than, you know, the other. We basically don't want to have so much distortion, so that basically, in a nutshell, this is normally a nerve-wracking process. A lot of guys don't even like to vlog this process for the sheer fact that it is very nerve-wracking. I'm about to put a lot of tension on these, and usually you have problems. But because they're ARPs, I'm kind of reluctant, and with that, I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys how to do it. Or at least how I do it. So what I like to do is we'll start with the number 1, and I like using this as a handle. I'll normally put my foot right here, which stops it from pivoting, and I can actually hold on this, and with the other hand I'm torquing and pulling, and it keeps everything all stable. So I'll try and film as much as I can so that you can get the gist of it, but I've been noticing that they've been putting my face on majority of these videos, which is kind of annoying, so that's why I'm really not trying to video myself so much. Okay, so real quick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's what we're going to start with. We're going to do 30 pounds of torque, 60 pounds of torque, 90 pounds of torque. We're not going to do it all in one sequence. We're going to have to do this all by each stud. So it'll be 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, and then 30. And then we'll repeat. Go back to number 1 again. You know, so we'll do 60 pounds, 60 pounds, 60 pounds, 60 pounds, 60 pounds, 60 pounds, and then we're going to go to 90 pounds. We'll go back to number 1. 90 pounds, 90 pounds, 90, 90, 90, and then back up to the final 90. And then this one head will be done. Okay, so now the 60. Everything's all marked, everything's set to 60 pounds. I'll have to step in here. Fix my handles. Okay. Make sure you're doing nice long fluid strokes. I like starting at the same position every time until I hear the pop, letting me know that that is at 60 pounds. Nice and fluid. Okay. Now, the nerve-wracking part. 90, 75, 80, 85, 90. 90 pounds! That you put your lug nuts to, basically. Alright. Cross your fingers for me. One. It's two. It's three. Four. Five. And last and final. And that's 6. And that's how you torque them. Now we do another visual inspection. We go to make sure that we didn't pull any of the studs up. Everything looks exactly the same. As far as the thread sticking out, everything looks great. So we had a very positive install for the ARP studs. So now it's time to flip this thing over and do the other side. We'll go ahead and install the other studs, repeat the same process, and bring it right up to where we are now. Then that way we can basically start doing some paint work. I've had a request from him to actually fix a lot of this. And if you probably have seen in the last upload, it's just chipping and whatnot. And there wasn't any sealer applied to the actual bare coat, to the bare metal. It's just paint, so it's just going to flake off as this oxidizes and whatnot. So it's definitely, as a chemical reaction, it's just going to flake off. It's not even going to stick. And a lot of the places, it didn't even look like it was even sanded. So I would probably say that majority of this is probably just spray paint. It's probably one of those things where it was just, hey, it looks good for the day, come get it, and it's going to flake away on your time, not mine. It is what it is. There's a lot of mechanics out there that just don't give a shit. And you can see they even sprayed like this plastic part, which I stated in one of my videos before. But it is what it is. I'm gonna have to clean it. I don't like it. But also, we're gonna paint all this stuff. He requested, he wanted everything black, so I'm gonna go ahead and take apart the intake manifold also as well. It's a job. We're gonna take all this stuff apart. It's a decent amount of hours just to get this broken down, sanded down, prepped, ready for paint, and then obviously not allow a lot of contaminants to get inside. So we're going to have to cap all the ends off with tape, make sure nothing gets inside while we're doing all that prep work, and then also set all this work aside as well, get it all cleaned, organized. That way I can put it back together after the paint is done. So that's basically going to be the next upload, is a lot of cleaning and getting all of these parts here ready so that we can start putting them back onto the block itself. So for now, basically, I got to get some more work done. I'm going to flip this thing right now and get it ready, but beforehand, we do have assembly oil in here, guys. That will drip out. It'll be everywhere. It will make a mess. Assembly oil sucks to get on all, your surfaces and whatnot, and it's really hard to clean, especially when you get it all over yourself. It's oily. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some saran wrap. I'll wrap all this up real good so that I can tip this at a 90-degree angle. And then we're not worried about all that stuff getting all over the floor, getting all over the engine and whatnot. And I can keep it inside of the head itself. That way I can just take off that saran wrap, that plastic wrap, and it will stay inside there. We want to keep as much of that assembly oil in there as possible because it's really good for the engine when it's breaking in. That way I don't have a dry start in here. We don't want a dry start. Dry starts are your freaking enemy. Okay, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and drop it off right there. That was part 4. Now, next upload, we are going to be doing some painting. So we're going to break down some valve covers. We're going to break down that intake manifold. We're going to get them black. We're going to make them look nice. And he had also mentioned that he wanted to change out the coolant tank reservoir. I said I had a bunch of Morosos, so it looks like that's probably going to be the route for that. So probably just going to do that. Probably going to break that down. We're going to paint that black also as well per his request. So yeah, again guys, thank you for sticking with me today. Nice hot day today, but I got a lot done. So I'm pretty happy with that. The heads are torqued on, and now I can move on to another project, which will be the next upload, guys. So, hey, I'm Bill Schneider. This is Rumble Garage. I work on only cars with the stars. Subaru only. Have a good day.